everybody. This is Ollie Bilson, and I am with Mr.
Tom Breeze. Hey, Ollie, how you doing?
I need like a drum roll there.
Can we not edit that in? That'd be brilliant.
No, I think we could probably do that. We could try that next time.
Well, okay, perfect. Done.
So me and Tom, before we just kind of jumped on here to record this episode, we were talking about some of the changes in the YouTube advertising platform, and one of the things that we kind of dug into a little bit, and we thought, well, we better get on here quick before we exhaust ourselves of all the information, is really some of the changes in mobile and how that's kind of affected things, because we all know that we're all using our mobile phones a lot, and obviously if you want to kind of get in front of people, then we need to make sure that we're running ads, if we're running ads effectively on those platforms to make the most of it. So why don't we kick off with that, Tom?
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I think that one of the things that's happened with YouTube a lot in the last 2 years, I'd say really big time, is the fact that everyone's starting to move to mobile more and more. And I think we all know that, right? So like the devices support better viewing options, especially when it comes to video. And like with the iPhone, well, maybe not with the Samsung Note or whatever it is that keeps on exploding, but at least most phones don't blow up. But the devices themselves are really good. They kind of display really high quality video these days, and the screens are big enough to actually watch a video and make it look really good. So when I'm talking about mobile, I'm really talking about mobile phones and not tablets just yet. We'll talk about tablets in a minute. But then I think internet speeds have improved over the last few years, especially when it comes to more mobile connections as well. So not like in the home and connected to Wi-Fi, but more a case of like your 3G, 4G networks and e-networks and stuff like that are getting better all the time. And so it's just become this natural thing where we are starting to use our mobile a lot more. I mean, I know that anytime I'm even working at my desktop, I'll have my phone very close to me. And for certain types of searches, I'll use my mobile. I'll go to my mobile for some reason. I don't know why all the time, but like I find sometimes instead of opening up a new browser to go and search something, I know my phone will be quicker sometimes, I think. And also I don't like to necessarily have two things going on at once. I'll just separate it out by device. But then obviously once you've finished working, you're not on your desktop any longer, when you're watching TV in the evening or if you're in bed or anything, I normally will go on my phone. One of the last things I do before I go to bed, because I just check on maybe like Instagram or Facebook or kind of like my email or whatever it might be, just to get ready for the next day sometimes as well. Probably not a good habit to be in, but that's just me. I'm sure everyone else does a similar thing. And so there's always been this kind of like talk from YouTube, the fact that everything is going mobile, and that's very true, and we've seen it more and more. But when it actually comes to advertising on mobile, it's never been easy on the AdWords platform to be like, okay, with video, I want to show up here at this time on just mobile devices. It's been difficult to separate that out. And we used to have it to do it through what we call as bid modifying, where you'd say, right, I want to decrease the amount of views I get from mobile by 100%. And that would be the way where you'd say, right, now we're only going to advertise to desktops and tablets. That was the way we used to have to do it. And all the other way around, which is a bit more complicated. If you want to advertise just to mobile, it wasn't possible to just advertise to mobile. But what you do is you reduce your cost per view that you're willing to pay, and then increase the bid modifier on a mobile by like 300%. And that way, you shouldn't get much exposure on desktops or tablets at all, but you should get more exposure on mobiles. But I don't know why AdWords didn't just allow you to advertise on just one platform or the other. But now, which is really good news, over the last month, it must have been less than that maybe, AdWords now just do it so you can say, right, just tick the box, whatever you want, whether it be desktop, tablet, or mobile. And then you can go by all the different types of mobile devices and the network type as well. So if they're connected to Wi-Fi or not, you can do all that good stuff as well. But it means that you can just literally choose whether you advertise to mobile or tablet or your computer. And that means basically it just gives that kind of much more clarity to the actual campaign itself. You can segment your campaigns by device, and also you can stop advertising to tablets, because in the past what would have to happen is that they would clump together the desktops and the tablets, and tablets would perform so much worse when it came to video ads than desktop typically. And also it's a very different moment in time for somebody. If someone's on a tablet compared to when someone's on their desktop or their laptop, it's a very different experience, I believe anyway. Like, if I know that I'm in a very different frame of mind if I'm on my tablet versus if I'm on my actual computer. I'm more likely to make a better buying decision from a computer than I am a tablet. Like, if I was to buy a flight to the US, for example, I probably wouldn't feel completely comfortable doing that on a mobile device. I have done it on a mobile device before, but I'd probably be more comfortable going to a desktop to do that, or buying a significant purchase. I'd probably do it from a desktop than I would do on my tablet or mobile. But now you can separate them all out. It does make things a lot easier. And it means also you can get rid of a lot of wastage from your campaigns as well. So if you've been running video ads more recently on AdWords and you've not yet kind of segmented those campaigns out, you can literally go in now, check on your performance of your tablets and desktop, and then turn off the tablets if you wish to, or if you really want to, turn off the desktop if you want to as well. But it means you can have a much better experience with your viewers as well. So if we take this as something like, well, a lot of our clients go straight to sale or very early sale. And when that's the case, you're always going to tend to find you get a better conversion rate from a desktop than you would do a tablet or a mobile. That tends to be a rule of thumb. So that means you can kind of choose how you advertise as a result of that. But then we have a lot of lead generation campaigns where someone might do like a cross-device conversion later on. So they might sign up on a mobile, get the information and join a webinar, for example, on a mobile. But then when they actually come to attend that webinar, they'll attend on a desktop. And that's a really nice kind of like thing to have, because it means that you know that you can connect with people on a mobile device and then carry on that relationship on a desktop, and that's really good as well. So some of our clients will do like training products. One of our clients in particular is doing really well on tablet, and that's because he's in the guitar tuition niche. And so you can imagine, can't you, if you're learning to play guitar, getting on a tablet is likely to be a much better experience for you than to be sitting in front of your computer. Because if you've got your tablet there, you can probably put it on a stand, probably play, and then if an ad comes up as you're watching a YouTube video to learn how to do something, and the ad's really good, you're going to likely click that, go back to the website and sign up for his lessons as opposed to YouTube lessons, because his lessons are so much better. And so...
Can I just stop you there? Why would we, and I'm sure some people who perhaps is not so intimately familiar with the platform may not know quite how convoluted it used to be able to get to where we are now, to be able to break this down by device as you can. But why wouldn't we just create an ad where it would serve on all of those platforms? Why would we bother and go to the hassle of breaking it down, even though we may know that our audience may consume the content better maybe on a tablet? Why would we spend the time on creating ads specifically for that platform rather than just doing one that with one budget? Yeah,
of course, yeah. So there's so many reasons, but really it's down to performance and getting the very best out of the campaigns you can. So one of the reasons is because depending on the funnel that you've got or whatever you're promoting, you're likely to get a very different result from a different device. So if it's straight to a sale, for example, you're probably going to see much better conversion rates from a desktop than a mobile. If that's the case, you can, once you know those numbers, say for example, let's say for example, you had to get in a sale for less than $100 in order to break even, for example, and a desktop did it for $10, so you got amazing ROI, and a mobile did it for $50, and you still doubled your money, sort of thing. So both work, and you're both really happy with both those campaigns. But because one is working like 5 times better than the other, you want to separate them out, those two different campaigns, because then you can be like, right, let's spend money everywhere we can with the desktop ads, because we want to see if we can maximize our impression share, maximize everywhere we can be seen, because we've got so much profit to play with, and therefore we can scale really easily. If you've got a mobile device, you might be like, okay, well, look, we've still got 50%, it's still working well, but we can't easily up the cost per view, for example, in order to get more impression share, because as soon as you start tweaking with that a little bit too much, say, for example, you went from 2 cents per view to 4 cents per view, and the conversion rate didn't change, all of a sudden it's going to be looking at around about break-even point at that point, just for 2 cents change there, because mobile will tend to be cheaper than desktop views as well. So it's just different numbers, and it's a different kettle of fish really when it comes to how to advertise there. And you've got to bear in mind, like, great, so you've got profit margins, you've got impression share, and also you've got difference of where those ads will show, and also kind of time of day that you might want to pay attention to as well, and also the ads themselves. So if you had like a 4K experience on a desktop, you might be able to get away with that and people watch it and have no problem. But with the mobile device, you might really pay attention to the fact that because it's shot so well, let's say, for example, you're selling a TV and you want the ad to only play in HD and you wanted it to be really, really good quality, and you just, without the HD factor of that ad, it wouldn't have the same impact. Then you might say, well, because it just can't be viewed on a mobile and the same screen and the same experience can't be had, you're not getting as good at brand impact in front of people as well. So there's all these different considerations that need to be taken into account. And from a performance standpoint, I would say you're best off separating them out and then dealing with them like they're different ad campaigns, because they will perform in completely different ways. And in order to optimize and scale them, you need to look at it from a different standpoint each time. So let's say, for example, a case study that we can talk about. I won't necessarily mention the client, but what we've seen a lot is when a client has a rather large list and it's a good quality list, we can upload it through something called Google Match. And then AdWords will build audiences off the back of that are similar audiences, very similar to Facebook's lookalike audience. And so what you can do is to say, right, that audience is being built, that similar audience, let's run mobile ads to it and also desktop ads to it. Pretty much exactly the same audience, but it will perform in very different ways. And that's where you can think, right, well, both have got a lot of scale to them. Both could convert really well, but because it's just a different device, it will just work in a different way. And therefore, you might want to pay less for a view, and it's easier when it's segmented out like that. And if you can go for desktop, tablet, and mobile as 3 different campaigns, it means you just got a lot more flexibility and a lot more, and the data interpretation of that is easier to read.
Yeah,
but
sure.
If you were to kind of like bracket it all together, you're going to be sitting there trying to work it all out sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
And so it's difficult. So yeah, so that's why we break it all out, and then you're going to get better performance as a result.
Yeah. So what I find interesting about this, and a mistake a lot of people make, regardless of actually, if you're running YouTube advertising like we're talking about specifically for certain platforms, or if you're running normal Google AdWords, search stuff, or even if you're doing Facebook, it applies to all, is that I see so many, mainly in the lead generation side, and also if you're sending people directly to a sale, of sites or pages that just simply just not optimized well enough for mobile. And regardless of how good the ad is, regardless of how good the offer is, ultimately at the point where there's a conversion, be it a lead or you're trying to ask for the sale, wherever you're taking them to in order to obviously make that happen, so many times people don't go to the right effort to make sure their pages are well optimized. And actually the truth is that people will be saying or thinking to themselves, possibly if they listen to this, well, I've got lead pages, or I've got ClickFunnels, or I've got stuff that is supposed to help me in terms of optimizing my pages for mobile. But the sad fact is, unfortunately, lead pages, is the way that the platform is built, is a little bit different in that regard. But where people start to do customization beyond that, in terms of things like ClickFunnels, and even if they're using the page builder with lead pages, or they're using something else like Instapage or whatever, the fact is that they build the pages often for an all devices model, and actually they just allow the system itself to determine and to resize accordingly based on the resolution, if it's mobile or not, that from however somebody's coming to it. And obviously that's the thing, is that if you're not going to take the time to create the pages specifically for those platforms, then unfortunately you're going to miss out a lot on conversions, because the user experience just isn't going to be there to maximize the opportunity. So I've seen so many things, from even size of buttons, size of text, people trying to get videos to be clicked and played, that they just really don't give it a thought. And in actual fact, there needs to be a completely different experience that you need to consider, really.
It's really interesting, because I know that we've got a lot of clients. Some of the pages will be optimized, some of them won't be. And when I say optimize, I mean like they've done a lot of conversion rate optimization on that page, and they've seen it from a mobile perspective, not like a dynamic version of a desktop page. In terms of, say for example, you're in a position where you've got a website, it's converting really well, you've done a lot of optimization to it, and then you think, right, I want to turn on my mobile advertising now. And you're starting to see good results, but you know your landing page of your website or your whole website could just be massively improved. What would your suggestion be? What would your think, like, here's where to get started? Maybe this is a new podcast episode I'm of like referring to here, but like, what would you consider, like, right, here's a few things you want to think about when it comes to the mobile experience when it comes off an ad, for example, like the first page that hit, like you're looking for an opt-in, let's say.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think the key is to actually walk through the experience yourself with what you've already got. So if you've already got a page that you use as a desktop page right now, then see how that page, first of all, performs on mobile. That's the first place to start. You've already got something that you're working with. It's automatically going to, hopefully it's going to create a mobile version of that page, which you can see, and you can immediately spot some of those errors. So, whereby if you're on a phone, maybe the button or the call to action where you want people to click to then have an opt-in box is beneath the fold. So the call to action really isn't high enough. They'd have to actually scroll to actually get to the point where they can actually opt in. So, making sure the call to action is always above the fold, really. And anything else that's congruent with selling the opt-in, really, you want to be visible and clear without any kind of distractions. So, things like button size as well is a consideration. So sometimes we change the copy on the button because on desktop, that length of text on the button is great for desktop, but for mobile, it doesn't work because it just doesn't work. Other things, people that use kind of parallax or any kind of video background isn't going to work on a mobile.
Right.
So then that it's going to give you like an imaged version of that video background or whatever. So you may want to swap that out so that the background plays second fiddle to the whole point of them getting to the page. And if you've got, and also, and there are, surprisingly, especially if you get into like a platform like ClickFunnels, for example, if you look at a page that we build in ClickFunnels, it looks completely different to how it does on mobile. The whole thing is very different. The size of things are different. The objects are different. The size of the buttons are different. And it can look like we've duplicated the whole page at each step in the builder, but we've built it that way specifically for mobile. And the easiest thing to do if you're on a desktop is actually just resize the window to just see what it looks like when it's all bunched up together to begin with. And that gives you some idea for, what you're kind of dealing with, especially if you've got some fancy pages. Of how it's put together. I also think so for me, so in answer to your question, making sure that the call to action is above the fold, things are that need to be there primarily to sell the opt-in are there as elements that you can easily see, and that you also you're also making sure that you've adapted any elements to the size and the dimensions that they need to be in order for it to be a good user experience. So
do you think about two things I asked? Like, so one thing is that I have used Optimize Press quite a lot in the past, and I love the fact that they've got a button which is like a mobile redirect button. So it's like if someone comes to this landing page and they're on a mobile, we'll send them to a different page, and then you can optimize that particular page purely for a mobile experience. That's question A, or 1A. Is that a good idea to do that? And question 1B, I suppose you could do some remarketing of that as well, which would be interesting. But then 1B is, which I can't remember actually. So if you answer 1A, I'll remember what 1B is in just a second.
Sure. So the way that from my knowledge of how that works is that it's based on detection. It detects that it's mobile, and then obviously it could redirect based on that. I don't really see that to be a problem as long as it doesn't disrupt the user experience. In fact, pretty much my default answer to most optimization questions are test the thing, because you can generally see what the experience is. If the user experience seems to be disjointed, and if it even seems to not have the fluidity that you would like to see, it's generally going to disrupt conversions. Some pages on desktop can look really nice, but ultimately when they come to mobile just don't work at all, and people don't actually take the time to make sure that they're well optimized. And I literally see that it's like for me it's an absolute joke. I literally click on an ad from Facebook or something, or on YouTube even. I did something the other day with a very well-known YouTube advertiser that you're not running their account, but I know who they are, and they took me to a ClickFunnels page, and guess what? The headline part of it was on the second line. So
right, okay.
So like immediately I'm like, that doesn't look very good. It doesn't look very professional. In fact, it's just interrupted the user experience. The colours just didn't really work the way that I wanted them to. It just didn't seem to work that well for me either, in terms of how visible it was. It's little things like we don't all have the brightness on our display turned all the way up, right? So you need to think about those things of how they're perceived immediately, really. And
it's really interesting. So and the part B was like, do you recommend creating a there's two parts to this question. Do you recommend creating a mobile specific page that you send traffic to from mobile devices? So you've got like a desktop version of the page and a mobile version of the page. And then the offshoot of that would be like, have you ever done any app promotion? So go straight to an app and get opt-ins on an app, for example. I don't know how that would work, in fact. So, that would be interesting to know, because I know that apps are starting to get really exciting and really popular and things. And I know that there's a lot of promotion that you can do around apps as well on AdWords, but I just haven't really dug into it just yet. But I'm a bit interested to know if you've got any information on that.
Yeah, so for me, I think the app thing I'll just address firstly. So yeah, and that's really exciting. I think we should actually hold that back probably for another episode. So I think there's a lot to talk about where that's concerned. As far as kind of the actual on-page optimization for both, do you do it as one page or do you create two pages? Is really this. For me, in the majority of cases, we create one page, one URL when it detects for mobile, the version that it serves up in its mobile form has been optimized, and essentially it can look like a completely different version of the page if you wish it to. So we predominantly, if we're not coding a page from scratch, then we will probably use a page builder like ClickFunnels, and that will provide us the opportunity to create a page where it says all devices, which is what it says in ClickFunnels, for each element. So sometimes we'll remove almost half the page. If it goes to mobile, or we'll remove, if, for example, there's an image, a big image, when that image goes onto mobile, it can be really, really small when it gets compressed, even though it was a really big image when it was on desktop. So that just doesn't work if there's detail on the image. So we'll actually want to remove that and only show that element if it's on desktop, not on mobile. So you can conditionally serve that just by selecting what it's viewed on, and then it will show the page accordingly. And we can find that works well, especially when most people are kind of, when you want to get going with these things, you don't want those sorts of things to hold you back. And that's the reason why, that platform works so well, because as long as you're aware of the fact that you should develop a mobile version of it, and it's not until you've had a bad experience with it that you kind of go, oh yeah, that's why that option is there. It makes a whole lot of sense. So, and it's the same thing, it's the same thing if you're driving people to blogs. If you've got a blog, what you're really looking for is kind of lateral scroll rate, that they're actually scrolling down the page and consuming content. If your blog isn't really set up to create that kind of experience, which really allows people to easily read across the page and down as they go, again, that's not really going to, lend itself particularly well to a good mobile experience either. So I think really all of these things we talked about, from your perspective in terms of running ads, and why you would run, different ads and break them up essentially to different platforms, and ultimately where you take them to, it's all very, very relevant, really, entirely.
It's really, I think it's really, really powerful right now in terms of like the options on advertising. With Facebook, they've been there for quite some time. With AdWords, they've just turned it on. But I think a lot of people have realized they need like that mobile responsive website, but it's more than just that. It's a mobile optimized website, right? So it's like saying, make that experience completely perfect from ad creation, because it will be a different experience for someone on a mobile versus someone on a desktop, and sending that traffic to a certain page. So say, for example, you are promoting something which is an immediate sale, maybe test out an idea of not going to an immediate sale, maybe test an idea of like sending them to a content-rich page to begin with and remarket them, for instance, if you're not getting a very good conversion rate on that sale. Because it's that the fact is you're still getting human beings going to a particular page that they're interested in something. It's just the device they're on might not be perfect, and so a clever remarketing strategy could get them back on a mobile, back on a desktop scenario. And likewise, Facebook.
And also just test the goddamn thing works, because we've done things where we've got funnels where you've got a low end offer, like postage and packaging offer, then you're trying to drive value up with upsells, but the upsells don't work on mobile. The one-click upsell doesn't work. And it's just the technology that hasn't been tested. And unless you're prepared to test the upsell and the downsell and make sure that it's carrying everything through, you've got a kind of a bit of a problem, really. So making sure all of that fits together. And also, to be honest, commonly, and I know like there's a lot of people like Sam Cart and people like that have done a lot of testing on this. It's like, God, like order forms, the point where people actually put their information in, if they're on desktop, if they're on mobile or tablets, that experience needs to be bloody good, because if it isn't, then you're going to lose the opportunity of getting that sale. And knowing, as we said right at the beginning, just how much traffic there is mobile, to not take the time to have the right technology in place to make sure it's optimized, you're going to miss out on a whole load of conversions. So it's super important to do that.
Ollie, great chat as always. We should probably talk about some of these. There's going to be offshoots of this conversation, because I know we've lots of different areas here. But yeah, fascinating. Loved it.
Cheers, Tom. I will see you in the next episode.
See you, buddy.